Hello everyone, as always welcome to Ludo History. I'm Adam, as always your friendly neighborhood historian, and we are starting up Kingdom Come Deliverance. It's a game I've been putting off, starting for a very long time, because if we're talking about medieval games, none has been called or pushed as historically accurate more than this one. So we can't really have a channel that talks about historical games without eventually dealing with this one, and then at some point down the line, Red Dead Redemption 2. That being said, there's a lot going on, and one of the things we try very hard to do with this channel is be an ally, a good ally, and that means being anti-racist and anti-fascist. So, to that end, this game has some controversies around its claims to historical accuracy, and we're going to start off by talking about those before we actually get into the game. There's still going to be plenty of gameplay though, so do stick around and watch me be very, very bad at this combat. Also, thank you this dude for giving Eldritch Horror of Bread a gift sub. So, let's tab over here with our nice calm chill music and start off our little miniature history lesson about our miniature history of the grand old time of 5 years ago. Ah, heck, not even 4 years ago. I was close. It kind of all starts off with this Eurogamer review. Kingdom Come Deliverance and the history it explores are inseparable. There hasn't been a medieval world this real and substantial since The Witcher 3, a game that I have also been putting off playing on this channel. The sense of time and place it conjures is astonishing. You feel your feet squelching a muddy, rutted path and smell the manure in the fields around you. What you see isn't a fancy world reinforced by a culture's past, it is a culture's past. Its bones are made out of it. Kingdom Come is the most believable adventure into medieval history I've ever experienced. That's the hook. Realism. Its developer Warhorse's own Czech history brought to life from the year of 1403, and the detail with which has been recreated is staggering. Are you hearing a lot of this language, chat? Right. Immersive. Highly sensory. Substantial. A culture's past. Recreated. Kingdom Come hasn't tried to condense the whole world into a game, but instead focused on a 16 square kilometer area of rural Bohemia. Remind me to pull up a map, Google Maps, so I can actually show you there. Everything is placed with the certainty of historical reality behind it. Shops are where they are because it made sense. Bakers, weapons, and blacksmiths, blah blah blah. Blah 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 blah. Between the settlements and the tranquility of the countryside. This is a living world made of rain and sunshine and even bone-shaking thunderstorms. Lots of focus on material culture, claims that we're putting the villages where the villages are, the layout of the towns where the layout of the towns are, generally doing a lot. And then some talking about combat. Talking about the combat. Combat is a bit clunky. I'm sure we'll experience that. I'm sure we'll definitely experience that. So. When Kingdom Come does succeed, it's peerless. The Elder Scrolls and The Witcher can feel flimsy next to the sophisticated symptoms and heft of history on show here. There's also a big problem. There are no people of color in the game beyond people from the Kuman tribe, a Turkic people from the Eurasian steppe. The question is, should there be? The game's makers say they've done years of research and found no conclusive proof there should be, but a historian who specializes in the area disagrees. We know of African kings in Constantinople on pilgrimage to Spain, we know of black Moors in Spain, we know of extensive travel of Jewish people from the courts of Cordova and Damascus, we also know of black people in large cities in Germany. The historian Sean Miller tells me. Czech cities Olomouc and Prague were on the Silk Road. They're also, we'll talk about it more in a little bit, they're also on the major pilgrimage route of the Central European branch of the Camino de Santiago de Compostela. I've been to the sites in Prague that are the way stations for the Camino del Santiago. So, the pilgrimage of St. James that runs to northern Spain goes right through Prague. Guess what that does? If you plot a line between Olomouc and Prague, it runs directly through the area created in Kingdom Come. You just can't know that nobody got sick and stayed in a longer time. It's not conclusive proof, but it's readily available doubt. Ding 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 ding. Ding 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 ding. By the way, I'm also going to... we're going to not... We'll talk about Vavra himself later, but... This isn't to say that Kingdom Come Deliverance is a hotbed of racism, because it isn't. The Turkic Kumans speak a different language and are hostile, which seems limited, but not less so than any other wargame. More apparent to me was the backslapping gladishness revolving around bedding women and having sex. Means you get the alpha male buff plus 2 to charisma. Because I've been satisfied, apparently it shows. It literally says that. Nope. Not feeling great about that. So instead of challenging the Dark Age already interpreted 615 years later, the game seems to delight in it. Oh yeah, Gazishan. Oh, I haven't seen you in a while. Welcome, my friend. And also, yeah, this is a thing. This is sure a thing, isn't it? So, instead of seeing notes in the margins of a history book, we get what feels like a glossy pamphlet advertising an escape into an oddly romanticized past. What a great sentence. Like, Robert, phenomenal sentence right there. Also, there's just a lot here to deal with. We'll be talking about this a lot throughout the game. But this sentence is a great summary of, what a lot of things suggest, right? What a lot of scholarship on historical games suggests is often going on. A lot of the move away from historical accuracy and more towards various types of authenticity, and I prefer using Salvati and Billinger's idea of selective authenticity from 2013, and they use it with brand World War II. We'll have a month about World War II eventually when I feel like it, but the idea of this oddly romanticized past, that's kind of a storybook escapism in the fantasy, using the history as an escapist fantasy for whatever people want it to be. This is a very good summary of that. So, of course, naturally, let's highlight that sentence, and let's click over to the next tab. Accused of racism. The internet is a great place for discourse. Kingdom Come Deliverance does not contain black heroes because there is no proof that at any time in Prague you could meet black people. Sleepy Artist, good morning. Good to see you. We are dealing with some disclaimers before we get into the game itself. And the disclaimers are that Kingdom Come Deliverance, when it came out, had some controversy about the complete lack of people of color in the game. And the internet was great for discourse about that. So, needless to say, this is a bad take. We will explain why this is a bad take a little bit later, but, the controversy gets so bad that Daniel Vavra gets in. The historical RPG set in 15th century Bohemia has been criticized for the lack of people of color and the minimal role women play in the story, but developer Warhorse, typo, Warhorse, not Warhose, has always maintained this is in the interest of historical accuracy. Vavra disputed the notion that the game might be a vehicle for his own political views. It has no propaganda because there are more people with the opposite political views with which I have the same office. Yeah, so there's some rhetorical shenanigans around here. And this is a great time, by the way, to have a quick digression and talk about Daniel Vavra. Daniel Vavra made this tweet. Daniel Vavra was extremely pro-Gamergate, which included comparing Anita Sarkeesian to Nazis. Yeah. He is not a good person. I'll be very plain. Within my own perception, my own very publicly available political views, and my disclaimer from 10 minutes ago that we try very hard to be anti-racist and anti-fascist and a good ally here. Yeah, no, he's repugnant. Pro-harassment. What a great take to be. So, yeah. Let me be very clear at this point that the fact that we are playing this game, and will be for several weeks, is not an endorsement of Daniel Vavra in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I'm going to be extremely petty about the game because I don't like Daniel Vavra. Which is probably not totally fair, but also I don't particularly care. So, yeah, that kind of underpins the whole thing. And so given that, the fact that he is turning an accusation of what is at worst, right, being like, you know, this feels weird, and this feels weird, into propaganda, the game is a vehicle of propaganda, is a nice bit of rhetorical trickery, isn't it? It's so such a careful bit of rhetorical trickery to make it seem like the accusations are something that they aren't, and that is just a clean mapping of Daniel Vavra's extremely conservative, somewhat xenophobic, highly Czech nationalist political beliefs into the body of the game. That was quite okay, not very biased. He's talking about this one, by the way. So, yeah. That's the thing. Oh, Niram, we're not finishing the game. We're just playing it until I get bored of it. Anyway. This was expanded. Luckily, right, people did not let it be done here, with just Vavra saying, oh, there's no propaganda, therefore, right, the only two states are perfectly politically neutral and propaganda. That's not a real dichotomy, that's some lovely rhetorical trickery. Because obviously there is ideology, and let's see. Where is it? This one we're gonna get to in a bit, I think. Where does it say? Realism and conservative politics. Continue reading. Where are we looking for? Oh, come on. There was one that actually just straight up said that it has a semi-coherent ideology. Where is it? Anyway, the point is, right, it doesn't have... Saying that it is propaganda... I mean, the game isn't, right? Realistically, the game is media, not propaganda, but it does have a semi-coherent ideology, is I believe the exact quote that's being used, and I am just not locating it right now. I had it pulled up. I lost it. It's fine. Anyway. Oh, Hey, look at that. It replicates the same systems and cultural ideas underlying various power fantasies, which results in a structurally similar experience, which makes it familiar and easy to digest. So that's fine. Anyway, right, is the latest incarnation of the ephemeral Neoplatonic ideal of the ultimate video game, the game that contains all games that achieves maximum immersion by doing everything. Etc, etc. I recommend reading through all of these, right, all of these articles that I have up, pulled out a nice set of things. However, hey, look at that. Let's look at this. All of these. The game itself, however, is largely free of overtly racist or sexist rhetoric. While there hasn't been enough to stop most people alarms, even though it's very much a game about white manly men doing white manly men things. Women being mostly supportive mother figures or prostitutes when they get to be characters at all. We get gay villains and little details like a charisma buff called alpha male they get for having sex with women at bathhouses. Hooray! The game also frequently depicts Kumans, a Turkic nomadic group, as killers and savages. Other non-Czech peoples, Hungarians and Germans, don't fare much better. Unfortunately, that is par for the course in the genre. Correct. This is par for the course for this genre. Not for this period of history, for this genre of game. Game developer and critic Liz Ryerson wrote on Twitter, I have to admit it kinda only echoes the bland white Eurocentrism in most mainstream fantasy media like Skyrim. Yep, this is fun. While people are happy to cite a commitment to historical accuracy to explain Kingdom Come's anti-diversity stance, that didn't stop its developers from adding borderline magical potions, overt references to other video games, and heaps of modern slang in the conversational dialogue. This is what we're going to be petty about, chat. Are you excited? We get to be petty about all of this because the game claims it's being historically accurate, and that means we can be mean to it. And then there's this brilliant one from Andreas Inderfieldy on Rock, Paper, Shotgun. That is one of the best introductions to historical game studies methodology I can recommend on the internet. Right, if you're looking for something that is not me or an academic journal article, something in text in between, this is probably the resource I would send you to. Clearly has some amount of awareness of discourses in historical game studies, which was the debate between whether we could use authenticity or accuracy was a big one for a while. For basically up until about 2013, we were like, yeah, this is a meaningful thing we can talk about. Yes, Grand Chicken Lord, this is the Black People Aren't Historically Accurate game from a few years ago. Then we moved very strongly into authenticity in several different permutations. And now, in 2022, accuracy is starting to make a comeback, but in a very limited sort of predictive sense of, here's one aspect, let's do a deep dive on how accurate it is to our historical evidence here, and then we can use that to build into larger discussions about why did they make the choices they did. That's the direction the field is moving now, and so probably the most important academic for it, Andrew Elliott, is starting to reconsider whether or not we can use accuracy again. I hope to get him on at some point, but we will see. It's going to be but it's an exciting time to be in game studies, but that means that these two terms are kind of the central idea of the academic field. But yes, it's important to remember that the past is never presented to us on a silver tablet, and we should be wary of any version of past events which claims to be the absolute truth. Notably, recreation instead of vision. I would contrast what Daniel Vavra is doing in this with actually Neil Price talking about the Northmen. Right, the Northmen, I got to talk to Neil Price a couple weeks ago at an academic conference. He gave one of the keynotes, and the thing he said, quite blatantly and bluntly, is that the Northman is a vision of the Viking Age. And that some of us might have different visions. And a layman might have or a layperson might have even different visions. And none of those visions are wrong, per se. They're just different visions. Put that in contrast to this. Which says, this is historically accurate. We have recreated 1402 southeast of Prague to a T. Medieval writers weren't for the most part in the habit of recording the lives and circumstances of peasants, the poor, children, women, or outsiders like the Romani. Hooray. There it is! Kingdom Come Deliverance isn't propaganda, but there's still a semi-coherent ideological framework at its core. Kingdom Come Deliverance looks at medieval society through a lens of patriarchy and the various isms it's associated with. Sexism, classism, and chauvinism. We're presented a world where men are still men, where peasants and women still knew their places in society, where wise lords and knights protected their people from barbaric hordes threatening a well-ordered nation from without, and whose foreign ethnicity is conveniently marked by language and costumes. But that's how it was back then, comes the familiar response to these arguments. Go read a book. Which book? They rarely say. For the sake of argument, let's assume that everything we see in this game is historically accurate. It's not, we'll get there. What about the things we don't see? Of course, Kingdom Come Deliverance's interpretation of medieval Bohemia is partially the result of a great deal of research, but it's also the product of assumptions and decisions about what to include or focus on, and by extension, what to exclude. Politics, war, material culture? No children. Nonconformism or deviancy is non-existent. This is not quite a true statement, but we'll get there. We're going to talk about that in a moment. We'll see, so look at this. We'll see, kind of evaluate this, how much I actually agree with. Bohemia is shown as a place of homogeneous equilibrium and conformity. I don't think that's probably quite true, but we will explore how that actually works. But I think that is enough of a background for right now. Definitely recommend this. So, let's actually then turn into getting into the game. After all of this, I think it's finally time. So, just so we know, I'm going to be splitting up this chunk of the VOD separately. Basically just to say, hey, this is an episode 0. This is the framework from which we're working on. Right, this game has some serious questions around ideology, race, gender, etc. that are really important for historians working in the modern moment. and it seems to be very uncritical about that. It does that all while making very, very, very strong claims of historical accuracy. So, oh, actually there was one more thing I wanted to do. So, we're going to be evaluating the game under the terms of those claims, which is going to be quite bad for it. Let me see. We'll just start with Prague, and then we'll locate where we're going from there. It's about 30 kilometers southeast of Prague that the game takes place in. But I don't remember the name of the big monastery. Hang on. Let me just look it up quick. Deliverance Monastery. We'll just look it up as a map. Deliverance map. We'll look up the map here, which should mark all the relevant things, and then we'll pull it up. Sasau, there it is. Ledechko. Perfect. Sasau Monastery. Come on. Sazava. There we go. So, Sazava Monastery, you know, the spot right down here. Kloster Sazava. So this is the area the game takes place in, right here. What that means is that we are actually working just south. Let's see. Yeah, so the game takes place basically looks like right around here, which means that we are working in between the towns of Kutna Hora, which is most famous for the Sedlets ossuary. And we're about 30 kilometers outside of Prague. Right? We're not actually that far away from Prague. It would take maybe, like, you could do a long weekend, even in the Middle Ages, and get to Prague okay. So yeah, just so we know where we're occurring, it's basically a box right around here. And there's a couple of relatively important cities nearby. I actually know someone from Kutna Hora, so yeah. 40 kilometers is 2 days of walking if you're going comfortably. I've done it in one. I've done that much in a single day before. But yeah, realistically, we're probably looking at 2 days there, and then a couple days back. Still not that much. Not that much at all. Okay. I think that's enough of a preamble. So, if you're watching the VOD, that'll be the end of this part of the video. None of this is to say that I think Kingdom Come Deliverance is automatically a bad game. Just that it's very, very important to be aware of the context of the creators and the controversy around its creation. Because that's going to be a big deal for how we evaluate the game and how we think about what video games can and cannot be and should not be in terms of their relationship to the past.